In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Medicare Payment Advisory Committee. They've released a report exposing $12 billion of excess payments made by the Medicare system. In addition to that, for new persons to Medicare, they'll need to understand that March 31st may or may not be an important date. All that coming up next. So I'm happy to announce that the paperback format of Maximize Your Medicare, the 2022 edition, is days away. Something like the middle of March. This is the middle of April. The ebook is already up and available. Amazon.com, anywhere you can get a book, it now exists. I don't intend on stopping Maximize Your Medicare, and there's a reason for that, which is that in our fragmented society, our society is fragmented on so many different levels, right? But now what has happened is that the attention span has declined and declined and declined. The most popular TikToks, 7 seconds long. I'm pretty sure fragmentation is going to continue. That boat's probably not going back ashore. The issue here is the fact that if you don't see the entirety of all the facts together on a consolidated basis, my concern for you, for clients, for everyone, is that you are going to miss something. To simply watch a 5-minute video and to say, okay, now I understand Medicare. Now I understand Medigap. Now I understand Medicare Advantage. Now I know how to compare. Now I know how to deal with my employer plan. Now I need to deal with how I'm going to, have insurance for my spouse and for my adult children who are below 26. To say that you're going to be able to do that by watching, individual 5-minute YouTube videos, I just find that impossible. Of course, Medicare is, for me, just a fragment. Right, Medicare. So inside of Medicare are all these different fragments, right? You've got, do I understand prescription drug? Do I understand how Part A works, Part B works, Medicare Advantage, Medigap? Do I understand how to retire? Do I know all the different steps? Okay, even Medicare by itself, to me, is still just a fragment. The other fragments exist. Okay, well, now I have a spouse and I need to make sure that my spouse who is not yet Medicare eligible, how am I that person going to get insurance? Okay, and then you've got another silo, which is that, okay, how am I going to pay for this? How does that fit into my entire financial plan? How's that going to affect my retirement plans? All of these things have linkages to each other. There's no getting away from that. The fact of the matter is, I've always known this. This is actually what sits inside of Maximize Your Medicare, is like to say, okay, well, yeah, Medicare in isolation, but there are other sections of the book. The new edition of the book has an extra list in the back, which about putting it all together isn't easy. And the simple reason is because of the fact that there are tax matters involved, for example, in Medicare IRMA. There's a tax matter involved when you are trying to estimate what your individual pre-Medicare health insurance premiums might be. The implication is all the way to investment strategy and portfolio strategy. So I've spent a lot of time on dealing with these types of matters, and in fact, this May I'm going to be speaking to a group of people who are the high end of wealth management groups and financial advisors. And after years, to followers of this channel, you've known that I've been on this topic for years. Finally now, the number's so big that even the persons who don't want to naturally deal with health insurance and its costs and its implication into a financial plan, they're finally listening. So up on your screen are copies or examples of prescription drug discount cards. Let me just give you a brief overview and a couple of insider tips here. Number one is, do the cards work? That's the obvious first question. The answer to that is yes. But you do need to understand these are not insurance, right? You cannot simultaneously use whatever insurance you have, your individual plan, your employer plan, any Medicare plan. You cannot use them simultaneously. The reason this is important is because these three sets, and let's just call it individual insurance and Medicare, right? So, pre-Medicare and Medicare. Let's just call it those two groups, okay? These two groups are creating different counters for how much you are spending towards the out-of-pocket maximum. They have these different levels. For individual health insurance, the reality is that the prescription drug costs that you encounter usually don't count at all towards the annual out-of-pocket maximum. Now, the number of plans where you have an integrated prescription and health or medical coverage inside of an individual plan that you buy in the marketplace or off marketplace, they usually don't include the prescription costs inside that out-of-pocket maximum. So for that reason, you can use these cards independently and without problem. For your employer plan, again, can be different, right? Employer plan usually have tiers. You have X dollars for tier 1, Y dollars for tier 2, Z dollars for tier 3. You can compare with any of the discount cards, no problem. So we've got my two that I'm showing you up here, links in the text below. In addition to that, you've got GoodRx, which is well known. These are all commodities. And here's your insider tip, which is you can bring all three to your pharmacy. Because the fact of the matter is that prescription distribution is so complicated that each one of these cards is going to have different prices for each medication at each pharmacy. There's no getting away from this. So if you want to save a few dollars, that's your way. And for some people, that's going to be substantial. Right? And on a percentage basis, obviously huge, but you can understand who you are. Who are you? Inhaler. Who else? Cream, for example. Topical creams that you use that might be that are prescriptions. Well, the sticker price is high, so as a result, the differences across these cards compared to your insurance can be notable and worth it. March 31st is actually an important date on the Medicare calendar. It marks the end of what it was known as the general enrollment period. If for whatever reason you've not enrolled in Part A or Part B correctly on time during your initial election period, during your initial coverage election period, which are a bunch of technical terms that are named by Medicare, you've got this opportunity, you've got it right now. So right now what ends up happening is you have until March 31st to enroll in Part A and or Part B. The coverage date will be July 1st. Before I continue on with the implications of that, let me just first say, if you are turning 65 sometime later in the year, this does not apply to you. This is only for those persons who should have enrolled in Medicare Part A and or Part B and did not do so correctly. There's a second subpoint here, which is that next year, the coverage date will not be July 1st. It will be in the following month. Now, that was the Bennis Act. You can see that I have other videos. I've appeared on interviews discussing the Bennis Act. The second thing that you can do during this period is you can change among Medicare Advantage plans. Meaning that if you are currently a Medicare Advantage policy owner, then you can switch across plans. You can do so once. You can do so once between now and the end of March. Now, can this occur for a number of reasons? I get a call every single day, especially at the beginning of a year. What ends up happening is people roll their Medicare Advantage plans because they like their plan or they think that, okay, well, everything stays the same, the premium's still zero. Yes, but inside the different ingredients inside the minestrone soup of Medicare Advantage plan, something may have changed. Your medication may have changed from tier 1 to tier 2 or from tier 2 to tier 3. Even if it stayed in the same tier, the copay may have been different because the negotiated drug price may be different. The network composition could have changed. Your doctor no longer belongs to that network. or a new doctor has appeared inside of a network at another plan, and now that combination of healthcare providers fits you better. I'm not going to make an outgoing call to anybody. In other words, people like me with licenses, we cannot make outgoing calls to you to encourage you to change. You've got to reach out to us in order for that to occur. Does this mean it's not happening? Can't really say that one either. I can't control what other people are doing, right? I can only play by the rules the best that we can as we understand them and stick to them to the letter, of course. Anyway, March 31st, that's coming up very shortly. Be sure to check this out. There are exceptions. One of those exceptions is you can switch into a 5-star plan anytime during the year. It's not a coincidence, by the way, that when you're driving on the highway, there's a billboard saying, Carrier X, we received 5-star rating by the Medicare system. The implication here is that you can switch even mid-year across plans. It's been a crazy year, obviously. It was a crazy year even before Ukraine, but because of what has happened on financial matters. But let's just keep going here. Let's return to Medicare. The headlines keep coming fast and furious. Let's start here at MedPAC. So what happens every year is a report is given to Congress about Medicare, its sustainability. That will come later in the year, but now a study about, kind of what Medicare should do. I'm not going to bore you with all of these things here, except some takeaways, right? And you can see as soon as they release this report, March 15th, just the other day, let's go to this tab, and you see the tons of news here, etc., etc. Everyone and their mother is opining about, okay, it doesn't this, it doesn't that. It doesn't this, it doesn't that. Right, so you'll see this here, for example. Oh, well, value-based care, which is Medicare Advantage, etc. But then there's the flip side, and let's just see other headlines, and you'll see it here. And this Bloomberg article, and this is where I'm going to go. So this Bloomberg article says Medicare watchdog warns of $12 billion in excess payments. So a couple of things. First of all, this is $12 billion in a year. Right, this is not a one-time $12 billion. Okay, that's pretty important because you need to think that, okay, well, that doesn't mean it's going to turn off to zero next year, right? So if you have the current regime and you continue on, you can expect this type of number every single year. I'm going to swerve off here. This is a topic that I've talked about in the Substack, which is a newsletter. Substack is just another name for newsletter. It just happens to be the platform that I've chosen. So Jay's Corner, there it is right there. You can subscribe, link below. How many is it? 4 or 5 emails a week about a variety of different topics, not only Medicare, but the broader set of financial planning tools. Let's continue back here. In here, what you have is $12 billion of excess payments. Has offered some private blah, 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 called Medicare Advantage. There it is. 2 decades old, right? Program paid $350 billion, right? So that's the Medicare payments to Medicare Advantage, $350 billion in a year. And, and that's the thing. $12 billion out of $350 billion is 3%. No. If you told me that your cost overruns were 3% in any business, I'd probably say you're doing pretty well. Okay. So what ends up happening, right, the number looks huge, but that's just to give you an idea of the scope and scale of how many people depend on Medicare, which is not coincidentally right why I wrote a book about it. All right, that's it for this segment. I gotta hit pause because what ends up happening is I actually have to look at myself as I'm speaking, and I'm just thinking to myself, oh, my hair is too long, I look old, I need plastic surgery.